This is Chapter 1, Lesson 6, Add and Subtract Rational Numbers, Unlike Fractions. Unlike fractions are fractions with different denominators. Denominators are your bottom number. The numerator is your top number. Using the least common denominator, okay, LCD is least common denominator, to change the denominator to be alike. To add and subtract fractions, you have to have the same denominator. There's a picture of our notes on Google Classroom. Just wanted to go over them with you. So we have 1/6 plus 2/3. 1/6, 6 would be your least common denominator because 3 can go into 6. So over here we're going to leave 1/6 the same. 2/3, we're going to multiply each by 2 because what you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So 3 times 2 makes 6. 2 times 2 is 4. Now I have the same denominator, so I can add them. So 4 plus 1 is 5. And then once you find the denominator, you keep it. Here's another example. 9/10 minus 1/2. Well, we know 2 can go into 10, so 10 is your least common denominator. You have 9/10 minus 2 times 5 is 10. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So 1 times 5 is 5. So now subtract straight across. 9 minus 5 is 4. The denominator, you find it, you keep it, so it's 4/10. But this can be simplified. 2 can go into both of these numbers. So I moved it down here, 4/10. Divide each of them by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So your answer is 2/5. And here's another example with 2 negatives. I believe this one's close to 1 on your homework. So a negative 4/9 minus 2/15. 9 times 5 is 45. Well, 15 times 3 is 45. So that's going to be your least common denominator. And if you have questions on how to find it, just list your numbers over here. So it'd be like 15, 30, 45. Well, I know 45 is divisible by 9. So 45 is going to be your least common denominator. So what you do to the bottom to get to 45, you have to do to the top. So 9 times 5 is 45. 4 times 5 is 20. So negative 20 over 45. Minus 15 times 3 is 45. 2 times 3 is 6. So minus 6/45. Find the denominator, keep the denominator. So 45 is going to be on the bottom as your denominator. Negative 20 minus 6 makes a bigger negative. Nothing canceled out. So negative 20 minus 6 is a negative 26/45. Okay, let's get to our homework. And we're going to do the same thing here. We have to find our common denominator. And so the first I'm going to look, can 6 go into 18? Yes, it can. So 18 is going to be your common denominator. I'm just going to move them down here. What times 6 equals 18? 3. What you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So 6 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15. And we're going to add across. That would be 15. Oh, nope, 16. 15 plus 1 is 16. And then we find it, we keep it. So keep the denominator. And those are both even. So even numbers can be reduced by dividing by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So there's your answer. Let's look at number 6. Your least common denominator. Well, you have 15. 10 doesn't go into 15. Then you have 30. 10 can go into 30. So 30 is going to be your least common denominator. So I'm going to write that much down. What times 10 gets you 30? Times 3. So what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 7 times 3, 21. 15 times 2 is 30. So 4 times 2, what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 4 times 2 is 8. Because I have 2 negatives, nothing cancels out. So I'm going to get a larger negative. Negative 21 minus 8 is going to be a larger negative. It should be negative 29 over 30, and that cannot be simplified. Let's look at 9 real quick. 1 plus 1/6. Okay, this one's easy enough because you have one whole plus a fraction. So it's actually really easy. Just add those two together. And that is your answer. Let's look at this one, because it's got the double negatives here. When you have double negatives, they become positive. And our denominator is going to be 6, because 2 can go into 6 and 3 can go into 6. So 3 times 2 is 6. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So let's carry the negative with it. Negative 2 times 2 is going to leave a negative 4. Because of my double negatives, you're going to add, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So 1 times 3 is 3. What you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So you have a negative 4 plus 3. It's going to leave you with a negative 1 over 6. And that's your answer. Let's do trying to decide which other one I want to do for you guys. Let's do this one. Okay, to make 1 a whole, you put it over 1. So you have 1 minus 3/4. You have a whole minus 3/4. Okay, 1 can go into 4, so 4 is going to be your denominator. And this one's going to stay the same. 1 times 4 is 4, so what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. 1 times 4 is 4. You have 4 minus 3. That would be 1 and keep your denominator. Finders keepers. Okay, so the rest is yours for homework. If you have questions, come in first thing in the morning.